Record. So first thing, forces. So as you can see in the chapter name, so basically there is forces, density, and pressure. So when you deal with forces, what is a force? A force is basically anything that
Posture.
has acceleration, right? So basically there are different types of forces. There is frictional force, there is like viscosity, there is air resistance, there is upthrust that we studied earlier. All these kind of forces, right? We don't need to basically know the all the types of forces, but some of them that will be commonly used, or I will just tell you a bit about them. So one of them is viscous force, sorry. This is basically we deal with viscous force when we are dealing with liquids. So liquids have this viscosity, right? So basically when let's say you have some thick liquids, they will basically not allow any substance to pass through easily. So basically, let's say you have some substance like a jelly-like substance, let's say. Those kinds of liquids, they will not allow anything to pass through very easily. But on the other hand, if you have liquids like air, like not air, sorry, like water. In water, it is comparatively it is easier. And then if you take other liquids which are even less dense than water, they will allow basically other substances to pass through very easily. So this is one kind of force, right? Then there is like upthrust, there is buoyancy force. So we'll discuss those kinds of forces. Okay. The main focus of this chapter is on something that we call as moment of a force. Okay. So let me first clarify this thing. Okay. So a force can have two effects. Okay. A force can have two different kinds of effects. So let's say you have this ball over here. Okay. So if there is, let's say,
Is more
uh-huh.
the force multiplied by the perpendicular distance.
Yeah, we are going to deal with it. So let me come to that. So let's say you have this figure, this ball in the center, and let's say you apply a force on it. You apply a force F in this direction, let's say F. So this F is going to produce an acceleration, and the acceleration will be such that basically acceleration will be equal to F over m, right? But this will not cause any turning effect. This ball, this will not start to spin, right? So this is one effect of force, that it causes acceleration. The object starts to move completely. Wait. Uh,
Right.
the other kind of force, the other kind of effect that force can have, that is basically, let's say, let's say you have the same object over here, okay, but now all your forces are balanced. So let's say there is one force over here called F, and there is another force over here. So your net force is balanced, right? Your net force, there is not going to be acceleration. The ball is not going to move in this direction or in this direction because there is equal force from both directions, right? So the ball is not going to move upward or downward. But the thing is, this part of the ball is being pulled in this direction. This part of the ball is going to be pulled in this direction. So as a result, there is going to be a turning effect, right? This ball is going to spin. So in this case, so let me write it over here. In the case below, there is no resultant force, but there is a resultant torque that we say torque. So we will discuss what torque is. But there is a resultant force, resultant torque, which will produce a turning effect, or you can say spin in simple word, spin on the ball. So as simple as that. Okay. So there is no force, but there is this torque. So we will
Yeah.
discuss what torque is now. So this turning effect, right? We have said like basically the forces are balanced, but there is this turning effect of a force, right? Like this force causes the ball to spin basically. This turning effect is what we call as uh, the turning effect produced by a force is also called as moment of force or torque. So these are the two common words that we use to decide how much of a spin will a force cause. So if I want to see how much spin will the one force cause, I can find its moment of force, or I can find its turning effect basically. It will tell me how much spin will this force cause. So it turns out this turning effect, it depends on two things. Okay, one is the magnitude of the force itself. So if I spin the ball with a greater force, then obviously the spin will be also faster, right? So there will be a greater turning effect. So first thing it depends on is the turning effect. The other thing is the distance from the pivot basically. So if I am spinning my ball, let's say this is the pivot, right? This is the center point. So this is the distance in this case. If I apply a force at this point, at the very center, it is not going to produce any turning effect, right? The ball will just move upwards. There will be no turning effect. But as I move towards the left, a smaller turning effect, a larger turning effect, it will keep getting larger like this for the same force. If I'm applying the same force, it will keep getting larger like this. So it turns out what we say is, we simply just say, so let's say if this distance is d, so we can say here that this turning effect of force, this turning effect, let's say, depends on two factors. One is force and the other one is distance from pivot. Okay,
Okay.
or you can say force and perpendicular distance from the line of action. So I will tell you what line of action is. We will get into the details. So this is one factor, force, and this
Yeah.
is the other factor, perpendicular distance from the line of action. So let's write a definition. So if I'm writing a proper definition of moment of force, my proper definition will be, so this is the definition. A proper definition would be the moment of force is defined as the product of the force and the perpendicular distance of line of action from the pivot. Let me also correct this, perpendicular distance of line of action from the pivot. Okay, so there is the definition of moment of force. Sorry. Okay, now time to write the formula. As you can see from this definition, you can clearly guess the formula. So we show the moment of force or torque with this symbol. This is the symbol of torque, and this is basically equal to F into D, as you can see. F into D. Okay, so this is a cross product, so that's why I'm using cross. You don't need to know like what is a cross product and dot product, but still, like just to give you an example, a cross product is basically when two things that are perpendicular and they are being multiplied and they give something which is in another direction. That's when we use cross product, and we use dot products when we want to multiply two things that are in the same direction. So for example, work, in work, so when you do like in work, if you think about it, work also has the same definition, right? Work is equal to F dot D.
Work done. Yeah.
Exactly. But the thing is, in this case, it is the dot product. Okay.
Oh,
And in this case, this is the cross product. And the
what is
distances
it?
the distances are different. The distances mean something different. So you may get confused, like basically they both have the same formula. But think of it this way. So the distances are different. In case of work, this d means the distance covered by the object in direction of the force, right? However, in case of this moment of force, in case of torque, the distance means the distance of the line of action from the pivot.
Hmm.
So they both are different. So there are two differences. One is of this cross product and dot product, and the other one is of the distance. So the distance means something different, and that changes basically the whole definition. Okay, when you have a cross product, so okay, so in case of distance, so well, let's say when you have W is equal to F into D, F dot D, right?
Hmm.
What do? We find the force that is in the component of this. So I can also write this as FD cos theta. FD cos theta, because that is how we deal with dot product. Cos theta tells me, if you remember, so basically if they have two components like this and this, and
Hmm.
I know the angle between them, theta, and I want to know what component of this lies with this vector, I use
Hmm.
basically cos theta, right? But in this
Hmm.
case, this is cross product. So remember this. If you know the angle between this force and this D, let's say,
Hmm.
the definition is torque is equal to F D and sine theta. Whenever you have a cross product, always put sine theta. That's the rule.
But
Whenever,
dot for uh, for cross sign. Yeah.
okay, so whenever you have the cross product, put sine theta. Whenever you have the dot product, put cos theta. So you can also think of sine theta in this way. So sine 90 is 1, right? Sine 90 is 1.
Hmm.
And the maximum value of sine function is 1. At all the other values, the value will be either 1 or less than 1. So you can think of it this way. So when this angle is 90°, the turning effect is going to be maximum. Okay? But if your force
What
is going to be like this,
what are you trying to say? Can't hear you.
okay, so I will repeat. Oh, wait. Just give me 1 minute. So what I'm saying is, look at this formula, FD sine theta. So if you think about it, the value of sine theta,
Hmm.
can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I was telling you, okay. So this is whenever you have a cross product, you always use sine theta. When you have a dot product, you use cos theta. So right now we have a cross product over here, right? So we will use FD multiplied by sine theta, which means that the angle
You
that I
use
will, what, sorry?
and then okay.
I,
Okay. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Got it.
So basically if you have this angle, so let's say if you have the same ball, let's say you have the same ball over here. So let me copy this and let's paste this over here and let's bring this down. So basically what this means is, so if you have this ball and let's say your force is in this direction, let me make this a bit straighter. So let's say your force is in this direction, let's say. Oh, it's difficult to kind of, oh wait, let me just, okay, so let's say your force is in this direction and let's say your distance, perpendicular distance, right? So this is this is distance d, This is distance D, and this angle is theta. So this will tell you basically what is force F, what is the distance D, and what is theta. From here you can see, so basically if you know these values, from F sine theta will basically tell you the component of F that is in this direction. Think of it this way. F sine theta will tell
Yeah.
you the component of F that is in this direction, right? So this will tell you basically that F sine theta is in this direction, D is in this direction, and you take basically multiply them
Right.
together. That's the rule basically. Okay. Okay. So that's how you calculate torque. So let's say let's do a question here. I think we should do a question here to basically understand this a bit better. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so we'll do one question. In the shown figure, a light rod of length 45 centimeter is held
Mm.
at A so that the rod makes an angle of 65 degree. How do I put degree? Let me see. 65 degree to the vertical. A vertical force of 15 Newton acts on the rod at B. Calculate the moment of the force about the end A. So I will draw the figure now. I will draw the figure now on the left side. So on the right side, sorry.
Force is 15,
Let me see if I
angle
can.
is 65, and the distance is 45, and it is vertical.
Okay, I will try
So
to. So this is your first one.
you will use the sine theta in this?
Yeah, we will use that. But how? Let me clarify. So let me just pick this up from here and let's just put it. Ah, okay, so this is our rod. Okay, and they are saying basically that you have this force of 15 Newton. So a 15 Newton force is acting in this direction. 15
Yeah.
Newton.
And
And this angle, so if I draw this imaginary line over here, so this angle is basically 65 degrees. 65 degrees. And so this length, let me use this color. Okay, I think
distance, perpendicular distance is 45.
this length is basically, yeah, 45. So this is
And you get
45 centimeter.
Newton.
So how will you do this? First, you will have to find the angle between, you have to find the perpendicular distance between the force and the pivot. So this is my pivot, right? This is my pivot over here. This is the moving point. This is my pivot. Okay. So I will need to find the perpendicular distance. To do that, that means basically I have to find. So if this is my force, perpendicular to this means basically this distance. I have to find this distance.
Mm.
Okay. So how will I do that? I know the angle. I know this. So basically, I'm finding this component of distance. You can say I am finding basically this component of distance. You can say this one.
Okay.
To do that, what I will do is I will do 45 sine 65, 0.45 sine 65. So this is a longer method. A simple method is to just go to our formula. I will just see, this is my formula. The angle between the force and this, sorry, the angle between the force and this distance, that is basically 65 degrees, right? So I will say this torque is equal to F, which is 15, times distance 0.45 times sine 65. Okay. And when I do this calculation, I will get torque is equal to 6.1, and the unit is Newton meter. So be careful. So although it has the same units as work, like it is F multiplied by D, and work also basically has the Newton meter unit, but you cannot use joule for this. Joule is basically conserved for work. Okay, don't use joule for torque. For torque, we will only use Newton meter. Clear?
Mm.
Clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Got it.
So now there is this another concept that we, okay, let me put it this way. So couples. This does not mean like real life couples, but couples of forces. Let me zoom this up. Couples. So basically, if you have a screwdriver, let's say, so,
Okay.
and let's say you are opening a nail, right? So what do you do basically? There are these four ends, right? There are these four ends. So what you do is basically,
Yeah.
let's say you see there are like those nails which have like only one line. These ones. So basically, what you do on these kinds of nails is basically you apply a force from the screwdriver, one in this direction and the other one in this direction, right? This is what you
Right.
do. And as a result of that, what happens is you produce basically double torque. So there is F here and F here. So if,
Yeah.
let's say I was using only a single force. So let's say I have this object, and on this object I was only using a single force. So let's say this is a center point. This distance is R, let's say. So this is R, and let's say this force is F.
Yes.
So in this case, the torque, that is basically F times. So this is not R, sorry. This part, this is not R.
R.
This is not R. Oh wait, sorry, yeah, this is R. Sorry. Yeah, this is R. Fr. Torque is equal to Fr. Because they are perpendicular, so we don't need to use sine theta, because sine 90 is 1. The angle between them is 90. So sine 90 will be automatically 1. Right? So I can just put
Right.
Fr. Now what I do is, let's say I use this another force in the opposite direction. Okay? F. Again, this is R. So this is T1, and due to the second force, T2, that will be basically Fr again. So my total torque, that will be this plus this, right? So I can say F times 2R
Final
maybe.
torque would be equal to, yeah.
2R is basically the diameter of this ball, right? So that will be Ft. So when you have couple forces, couple forces basically are the ones that are perpendicular, are basically opposite in direction, okay,
Mm.
and equal in magnitude. So let me first write it over here. So D is basically, well, let me also clarify this part. So D is
F
basically
for
this distance.
F for 2T,
Let me
2F.
wait. Let me change the color so you don't get confused. Delete this and let's use this color. So this distance between the forces, that is D basically, the diameter. So I will write the definition of couples first. So a couple consists of two forces equal in magnitude but opposite in direction, whose lines of action. So let's instead of putting this, let's say the opposite direction. Okay, let's I think so. As you can see, this means that basically if we have forces which are equal, like as you can see F and F, they both are equal in magnitude but opposite in direction.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I can just stop it at this point. Opposite in direction, those are, that is what we call a couple. Okay, and if you want to find the use of defining a couple of forces is basically you can find the torque very easily. So the torque of a couple is the product of one of the forces and the perpendicular distance between the forces. So we have also proved that, we have also like proved this earlier. So as you can see, torque is came out to be Fd. So the torque on the couple, if you have a couple, the torque in case of the couple will be equal to the product of the force, one of the force, because they both are equal, and the perpendicular distance between the forces, perpendicular distance. Okay, so basically even if your forces are like this, so let's say your forces, let's say they are like this maybe, and the other one is like this. Okay, even in that case you will take this perpendicular distance between them and you can find basically the the torque of this, the net torque of this. Clear?
Clear.
So this is a very simple way to basically find the torque of a couple. So if you have a couple, you can easily find the torque. So let's do a question related to this. So instead of doing like the, instead of applying the torque formula for each force, you can simply just go with this method and find the net torque simply. So calculate the torque produced by two forces, each of magnitude 30 Newton, acting in opposite direction with their line of action separated by a distance of 25 by distance of 25 centimeters.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, let me just also clarify first, what does line of action mean? So if you have this force, the line of action of this force is basically this line that you see in which this is being applied. So this is the line of action of this force, and this is the line of action of this force. Okay,
Yeah.
and the separation between line of action basically means the perpendicular distance between the forces. Okay, so basically what you will do is, we know that there are two forces and they are in opposite directions, so we can apply the rule of the coupled forces. So what I will do is, I know that torque
Torque
is
equal
equal
to
to
2
force
times
multiplied by separation, the distance between forces. So this is the couple rule. So this is the couple rule that I told you, FD, force multiplied by distance between forces. So you don't need to know their distance from the pivot. You don't need to know anything else. All you need to know is their distance, the distance between the forces. Okay.
right.
Okay. So torque is equal to force multiplied by distance between forces, and from here you can easily calculate it. That will come out to be, because the force is basically, the force is 30. The force is basically, you take one force multiply by distance between forces, which is 0.25. 0.25, and your answer will be 30 multiplied by 0.25. This will give me 7.5. So this will be 7.5,
Not in joules.
not in joules, Newton meters. 7.5 Newton meters, never in joules. Okay,
So, okay.
so that is basically, we have applied this formula over here. Torque is equal to Ft. So the simple is, let me also write this over here. Torque is equal to F times D. So this is different from this formula. This is different from this formula because there is a cross product here. There is a sine theta. That is for a single force, right? But this one, this is for two forces. So if you have two forces and you know the distance between forces and you know that they both are in opposite directions, so you can find the net torque of those forces by just multiplying them with the distance between those forces. Clear?
Clear.
Is it clear?
Understood. Yeah.
Okay. So there is this principle that we call as the principle of moment. Okay. So what is the principle of moment? Let's see. Wait a minute. Okay. So principle of moments. Let me increase the size a bit. So what's the principle of moments basically? Decrease size, and yeah. It basically tells you the principle of moments states that for a body to be in rotational equilibrium. What is rotational equilibrium? As you can guess, basically rotational equilibrium means the body is not spinning. So basically, if you remember from the dynamics chapter, equilibrium basically in case of forces, or that is the case in which the object was not accelerating, right? So
Yeah.
if you have rotational equilibrium, that means if the object is spinning, it will keep spinning. if the object is not spinning, then it will not spin unless it is in as long as it is in rotational equilibrium. To basically, if you have a non-spinning object, to spin it, you will have to basically disturb the equilibrium. You will have to apply an extra torque, and then it will start to spin. As long as it is in its original equilibrium, it will not change its spin. Its spin will remain same.
All
States
right.
for a body to be in rotational equilibrium, the sum of clockwise moments about any point must be equal to the sum of anti-clockwise moment about the same point. Okay,
All right.
so basically that means if I have a rod, let's say again, a rod like this, maybe, right? And on this rod, I have, let's say, a couple of forces. So let's say there is one force over here. There is this force over here. Let's call this F2, let's say. Let's call this one F1. Let's say there is this one over here. F3, we can call this one. Then F4. Okay. And they tell me that this object is in rotational equilibrium. Then I can take any point to be pivot. As long as it is in rotational equilibrium, then I can take any point to be pivot. So let's say I take this one to be pivot, right? In that case,
Right.
I will have F1 multiplied by distance of F1 from the pivot plus F3 multiplied by distance of F3 from the pivot. So let me clarify this one. So let's say this distance is I think this is not a really good diagram to explain what I'm trying to explain. Let me just correct it a bit. So what I will do is I will reduce the number of forces and I will draw a smaller rod. So let's say I have this force, this rod only. Okay. And let's say there is one force in this direction,
Yeah.
F1. Let's say there is a second force in this direction, F2. Let's say they both are acting at the same point. We can even do that. F2.
Upside down.
So let's say this is F2. And let's say there is this force, F3.
Basically, it says the principle of moments just that the sum of clockwise moment equals to the sum of anti-clockwise moment.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm trying to explain what does it mean like when you choose a point. I will tell you that. So let's say you have these four forces, F1, F2, F3, and F4. And they tell me that this is in equilibrium. So let's say I will first thing, let's say I go with my O levels concept and I choose this point to be my pivot. Okay. So let's say I choose this point to be my pivot. This point over here. So let's say this distance is R. And let's say this distance, that is also R. This distance over here, that is also R. Now, when I choose this point, my net torque will be, first I will write the clockwise moments on the left side. So F1 multiplied by R plus F4 multiplied by R, right? These are the clockwise moments plus F4 multiplied by R. Since this is in equilibrium, so these clockwise moments, they are going to be equal to anti-clockwise moments, which is going to be F3
Exactly.
R plus
Plus 4.
F4R. F4R. Right? So this will be my equation in this case. But there is a
F3
simpler
plus
way.
F2.
What, sorry? Oh, sorry, yeah,
F1,
F2, F2,
F1
F2,
plus F4, then
we are dealing with anti-clockwise moments, yeah. So thank you for pointing that out. So this will be F2 because we are only dealing with anti-clockwise moments.
Mhm.
F2R. So this will be my
Yeah.
equation in this case. But there is a much simpler way. So simpler way is basically I can take any other point to be one. So let's say I take this point to be pivot now. Okay. In that case, the distance to F3 and the distance to F4 that will be 0. Right? So F3 and F4
Mhm.
automatically go away. So I
Right.
will only have in my clockwise moment I will have F1R, and as it is in equilibrium, so this will be equal to F2R. Sorry, this will be multiplied by 2. This will be, so basically this distance is 2R, right? And this distance is 2R. So that will be my equation. So as you can see, just by choosing a different point as my pivot, I can simplify the equations.
Mm.
I can basically, let's say, in this was a simple example, right? So the distances are simple. So they all of these distances they are at a distance r. But let's say I don't know the distance of F3 and F4. Like I don't know at which point they are acting. So what I can do is I can just take that point. I can just imagine it to be my pivot, and then from there, when I choose it to be my pivot, I don't need to know the magnitude of those forces. I don't need to know like what is the magnitude of those forces. I can just take the magnitude of the forces, accept them. Like I can ignore them and I can take the other forces and I can find the total magnitude. Right? Similarly, I can also do the same thing by choosing this point to be my pivot if I want. So the choice of pivot, that is basically,
Mhm.
that depends on you. Okay. So
Mhm.
there is this concept of center of gravity. Now I'll explain that. Center of gravity. So this will basically, we will have to use this concept a lot in our questions, because when we are dealing with torque, we will always have to include the weight of the object, right?
Mhm.
So basically, when you will deal with weight, let me first try the definition here. So this is 11. Okay. The center, what did I do? Let me, the center of gravity of an object is the point at which the whole weight of the object may be considered to act. Okay. So basically,
Mhm.
that means if you have a board like this and the center of, and you want to, so you know that this, due to this board, basically there will be a force that will be acting on this object, right? And in real life, what happens is basically this part of the board that is pulled downward like this part of the board that is pulled downward like this, right? This is what happens in real life.
Mhm.
All these parts of this board, they are being pulled downwards. But what we assume is, we assume that this is just one point object. This is not a board. We assume that this is just a point. And where is the weight of that point acting? So that comes out to be around the center, around over here. And we take the whole weight to be acting in this direction. And we say that this point where this weight of the body appears to act, basically we say that this point is the center of gravity. We know
Mhm.
that basically the gravity is acting everywhere on this board, but every like basically every particle is being affected by gravity, but the net result, it seems like it is acting at one object. So we call that object as center of gravity. Okay. So you will see that in the questions, when we have pivot and everything, what we will do is we will have like what do you say? What do you say? Like we will have these pivots, and what we will try to do is we will try to choose our pivot at the center of gravity. So even if we don't know the mass of the object, we can basically go on without numerical, without knowing the mass of the object, because we know the center of gravity. We will
Yeah.
discuss this. We will discuss this. Don't worry. So right now, all you need to know is so that the center of gravity is a point at which the weight of the object appears to act, right? Where we can
Right.
balance it. So basically, if I place a pivot under it, a pivot under this object, then this will be balanced. This scale will be balanced. If I put a pivot anywhere else, in that case, there will be a turning effect because there is now this distance between the pivot and the force,
Right.
right?
Right.
So you can balance an object by placing the pivot directly under its center of gravity. Now, if you remember, we did some questions and I told you when we were going through this concept, I just skimmed through it. I didn't go into much detail, right?
Equilibrium.
Equilibrium, the concept of equilibrium. I did not go into much detail when we were discussing this. Now we will go into detail. So what is equilibrium? So simply you can say when an object is in equilibrium, it will not accelerate and it will not spin if it is not already spinning,
Yeah.
right? So it will not do any linear acceleration and it will not show any rotational acceleration. So there will be no turning effect and there will be no net force. So simply you can say for a body to be in equilibrium, for a body to be in equilibrium, there are two conditions. First one is the sum of forces in any direction must be zero.
Balanced.
That basically means that, let me insert an equation over here. Equation that means that F resultant, that is basically equal to zero. Okay, that's the first rule. And then the second rule is the sum of moments of forces or the sum of torques about any point from that object
Mm.
must be zero. So I will also put this over here. So again, we'll put an equation, and that will mean that the resultant torque, where is the torque sign? Yeah, this is the torque sign. So the resultant torque, that should be equal to zero also. Okay.
Okay.
So this one, the first one, is what we call as I will put the names here. So when only the first condition is satisfied, we call this as linear equilibrium. Linear equilibrium.
Right.
This is related to the this is the dynamics part basically. And when the second condition is satisfied, we say rotational equilibrium. And when both of them are satisfied, we say the object is in complete equilibrium. So it will not accelerate and it will not start to spin on its own. So that is the conditions of equilibrium. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is this one part of this chapter, but I don't want to do it today. That is about density and pressure. I don't want to do it today because that is very different from this one. So what we can do in this time is we can Let me see if I can find any questions. Do you have any questions about this chapter? Like up till now, what we have studied? Any questions up till now?
Yeah, I do.
Well, okay, you can ask. Which part?
No, I thought like you're talking about past paper questions. We can.
What? Sorry.
I thought like we can go through the past paper questions for the
No, no,
topic
no,
we have done.
no, no, not the past paper questions. We can do questions from the book for now, and tomorrow we will complete the chapter. And if we
Mm,
will have some time left, then we will do the past paper questions tomorrow. Okay,
right.
after completing the full chapter, so that we can do every question basically. Let me see if
Mm,
I can find any good questions here. Okay, I found this question. So the question is, let me move down a bit. So they're saying that there is this rod. Let me first put this over here. So this is a question. Okay. The question is, you have this basically rod like this, and on this rod there is this one force that is acting like this. The magnitude of this force is 29 Newton, and the angle is 60 degrees. 60 degrees. And then you have this second force which is in this direction, and you don't know the magnitude of x. Okay, so you don't know the magnitude of x. So there is another force being applied. You don't know the magnitude and you don't know the angle. You don't know the angle too. So that this angle is theta basically. Some angle theta we don't know. Okay. Um, then you have let me see. Yeah. So you have this last force which is acting from the center like this. And this force is basically 50 newtons. Now they are saying this object is in equilibrium. Equilibrium, total equilibrium. Okay. So what they want us to do is, okay, the distance. Okay, let me also write the distance here. So this distance, this is basically equal to
mm,
so this is equal to okay, so this distance, this is basically let me see. Okay, this is 100 centimeters, or you can say simply 1 meter. 1 meter. Now what they want you to do is determine the force x by taking moments about q. What is point q? Q is basically this point. So they want you to find the force x. How will you find force x? So first thing I can do is I can use any of these points as my pivots. Okay, so I can take either this point as my pivot, either I can take this point. But the thing is, this will not be very useful, because if I take this point to be my pivot, I know that in that case I will not be counting x in my equation, right? Because
right.
x will be basically in a different direction. X will be basically on the same pivot, and when your force is on the pivot, then you cannot find it basically. That's what it means. Okay. So let's first apply. We know this is an equilibrium. So we know that this object is in equilibrium. So first thing we know is from equilibrium, we know that the resultant force that is basically equal to 0, right?
Right.
That's the first thing we know. So how many forces are there in the upward direction? That is x times sine of theta, x times sine of theta plus 29 sine 60, right?
What is RES or ES?
Resultant force, that is 0, right? That is a condition of equilibrium. Since it is an equilibrium, okay, since this object is in equilibrium, so
Yeah,
resultant
it will
force is 0. And this is basically, these upward forces, they are basically equal to the downward forces. And what are the downward forces? The downward force is basically
50.
50. Okay. Now the next step, this is one equation, right? And I have two variables. One variable is x, the other variable is theta. I can make the other equation by using the horizontal components x cos of theta and 29 cos of 60, and by equating them to each other. But that will not be any fun, right? Because like you are basically using the F resultant concept. I want to apply the net torque concept. So we also know that from equilibrium, since this object is in equilibrium, net torque is equal to 0. This resultant torque is going to be 0. No matter what point I choose as my pivot, the torque resultant, that is going to be 0. So I cannot choose this point to be 0 because I want to find x, and if I choose this point to be 0, then basically x will disappear in the moment. So basically what I will do is I will choose either this point or this point as my pivot. So let's say I choose this point, the center point. In that case, this force, this downward force, that will be ignored because that is acting on the pivot, so it will not produce any turning effect. The only turning effect will be produced by this force and this force. So let's first consider this x. So as this resultant force is 0, so the anti-clockwise moment, sorry, the clockwise moment, that will be x times x, and the distance between the pivot and this force x, that is basically 0.5 meters. So that will be 0.5 multiplied by sine of the angle between them. So sine theta, x sine of theta, right? And then
Right.
on the right side, that is going to be equal to the anti-clockwise moment, right? So this is the clockwise moment, that is going to be equal to the anti-clockwise moment, that is going to be 29, which is the force, multiplied by the distance, which is 0.5 from the pivot, and sine of 60 according to our formula FD sine theta. Okay, so now as you can see, we have two equations and two variables. So we can simply
Yeah.
solve this in using the simultaneous equation method to find our answer basically. Okay, clear?
Clear.
Okay, so that's basically a simple method to find your answer. I will not do the maths further because that is basically some hard maths, and this is basically, we're not dealing with the maths, we are only dealing with the concept of physics, right? So you, as long as you understand the concept, you will be able to do any maths. So after this point, this is just application. So I hope this was clear. So I will stop the recording.